The ham was still warm on the table when Grandpa Charlie set down his fork and looked straight at me. "So, Danny, did you like the new house your folks bought with your college money?" The dining room went silent. Mom's wineglass stopped halfway to her lips. Dad's jaw tightened the way it did when he was about to lose his temper, but this time he wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the floor. I had been back from my second deployment in Afghanistan for exactly 6 days. Still had sand in my boots. And the weight of my M4 Ghost pressed against my chest every morning when I woke up. But this hit different than incoming mortar ever did. "What new house?" I asked. Grandpa's eyes went wide. He looked at Mom, then Dad, then back at me. "Oh, hell. Digest Charlie, please?" Mom whispered. I set my fork down carefully, same way I'd set down my weapon when clearing buildings in Kandahar. Controlled, deliberate. "What new house?" "Grandpa," Dad finally looked up. His face was the color of old concrete. "Danny, we can explain the lake house," Grandpa said quietly. "Out in Brandenburg. They bought it 6 months ago. Said you were all for it, that you told them to use. Your GI Bill money since you weren't planning on college anyway." The room tilted. I'd saved every penny of my combat pay for 4 years, lived in barracks, ate MREs when I could, sent money home to the account we'd set up for my education. It's the account with both my parents' names on it because I'd trusted them, because family was supposed to be the one thing that didn't change while you were getting shot at in the mountains. I never said that. I said Mom started crying, not the pretty kind of crying from movies, the ugly, guilty kind. "How much?" "Danny, how much?" Dad's voice came out like gravel. 43,000. I stood up from the table. The chair scraped against the hardwood floor they'd probably paid for with my money too. "I need some air." I walked outside into the December cold and sat on the porch steps. The same steps where Dad had taught me to tie combat boots when I was 12, where Mom had hugged me goodbye before my first deployment, where they'd promised to watch over my money like it was their own. Inside, I could hear them arguing in whispers. Grandpa's voice rose once. "You stole from your own son while he was at war." I pulled out my phone and stared at the screen. Didn't call anyone. Didn't curse. Just sat there feeling something break inside my chest that had nothing to do with enemy fire. When I went back inside, they were all sitting in the living room. Mom had stopped crying, but her eyes were red. Dad was staring at his hands. Grandpa was in his chair by the window, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 20 minutes. "We need to talk," Mom said. "No," I said. "We don't." "Danny, please. I'm going back to base tomorrow. We'll figure this out later. But you're on leave, not anymore." Dad stood up. "Son, you have to understand I understand fine." I went upstairs to my old room and started packing. The room hadn't changed since high school. Same posters on the walls, same blue bedspread, same desk where I'd filled out my enlistment papers, where I dreamed about using my GI Bill to study. Engineering? Maybe become someone who built things instead of breaking them. Mom knocked on the door 20 minutes later. "Danny, can I come in? Door's open?" She sat on the edge of the bed and watched me fold my utilities. "We were going to pay it back." "Okay." The house was such a good deal, and we thought, "Mom," I looked at her, "just stop." She nodded and left. Dad didn't come up at all. Grandpa knocked once, but when I didn't answer, he just said through the door, "I'm sorry, grandson. I didn't know." I finished packing and lay on the bed staring at the ceiling. Outside my window, I could see the edge of the Hendersons' property where I'd built a treehouse when I was 10. Mr. Henderson had helped me with the design, taught me about load-bearing joints and proper foundations. He'd been an engineer in the Navy before he retired. Always plan for the worst-case scenario, he'd told me. That way you're never surprised. I should have planned for this. The account was Mom's idea. I was 19 and about to ship out to Fort Campbell for infantry training. She'd sat me down at the kitchen table with a stack of paperwork and her reading glasses perched on her nose. "You need to set up direct deposit," she said. "You should open a separate savings account for your college fund. So GI Bill is good, but having cash on top of it will give you real freedom." Dad had been reading the paper, but he looked up. "Your mom's right. I wish I'd had that kind of opportunity when I was your age." Dad had worked construction his whole life. Good work, honest work, but hard on the body. His knees were shot by the time he was 50, his back not much better. He'd always talked about how education was the way out, the way up. "We'll be your trustees," Mom said. "That way if something happens to you overseas, we can handle things. And if you need money for emergency, leave or something, we can wire it to you right away." Made sense. I trusted them completely. They'd raised me right, taught me about honor and duty and looking out for family. Dad had driven me to the recruiter's office and shook my hand when I signed the papers. Mom had sewn flag patches on my deployment bags. The first year, I sent home $800 a month. Combat pay. Plus the extra money I saved by not drinking or going out like the other guys. I'd call home every week, and Mom would give me updates on the balance. It was growing steadily. By the time I deployed to Afghanistan, I had over 20,000 saved. "You're doing so good, honey," she'd say. "We're so proud of you." Dad would get on the phone sometimes too. "You're setting yourself up for success, son. When you get out, you'll have opportunities we never had." There were small things I should have noticed. The way Mom would change the subject when I asked about specific amounts. How Dad started talking about retirement more often, wondering out loud if they'd ever be able to afford to stop working. The way they'd both gotten excited about that lakefront property development out in Brandenburg County. "It's beautiful out there," Mom had said during one of our calls. "Peaceful, the kind of place where you could really relax after everything you've been through." I'd thought she was talking about me, about where I might want to live when I got out. During my second deployment, the calls got shorter. Mom seemed distracted, hurried. Dad would take over the conversation, asking about my unit, my missions, anything except the money. "How's the account doing?" I'd ask. "Fine, fine," Mom would say, "still growing, don't worry about it. Should have asked for statements, should have checked online." But I was busy trying to stay alive, and I trusted them. They were my parents. They'd raised me to believe that family was everything, that blood meant something, that the people who loved you would never let you down. I was wrong. Back at Fort Campbell, I sat in my barracks room and stared at my phone for an hour before I called the bank. It was a Tuesday morning, and I had duty at 0900, but I needed to know. "Security National Bank. This is Jennifer. How can I help you?" "I need to check the balance on my savings account. I'll need to verify your identity first." I gave her my social security number, my address, my mother's maiden name. All the questions I'd answered 100 times before. "I'm sorry, Mr. Coleman, but I show this account was closed in September." "Closed?" "Yes, sir. The balance was transferred to a checking account ending in 4,792. Would you like me to connect you with that account specialist?" "No, thank you." I hung up and sat there feeling empty. September. Right in the middle of my deployment. While I was pulling guard duty in 100-degree heat, they were closing my account. I called my squad leader, Sergeant First Class Martinez. "I need to take some personal time." "Everything okay, Coleman?" "Family stuff? I need to handle some paperwork." "Take what you need. You've got leave built up." I drove to the bank in town. It's the same bank where I'd opened my first checking account. When I was 16, where Mom had co-signed my car loan before I enlisted, Mrs. Patterson. The branch manager had known my family for 20 years. "Danny," she said when I walked in. "How are you, honey?"
Ow.
"How was your deployment?" "Fine, ma'am." "I need to talk to you about my accounts." Her smile faded. "Of course. Let's go to my office." We sat across from her desk and she pulled up my records. On her computer, I watched her face change as she read through the transaction history. "Danny, I'm so sorry. I had no idea you weren't aware of these transfers. Show me." She turned the screen around. $43,000 transferred. Out in 3 chunks over 6 months. All authorized by my mother's signature on the joint account agreement. "Is this legal?" I asked. "Technically, yes. Both parties on a joint account have full access to the funds. But ethically, ... She shook her head. "This is your money, isn't it?" "Yes, ma'am. I'm going to print you copies of everything. Every deposit, every withdrawal, every transfer. And Danny, you might want to talk to a lawyer." I took the papers and drove back to base. Sat in my car in the parking lot and went through every transaction. 4 years of my life, 4 years of saving and sacrifice, gone. Used to buy a vacation house while I was eating sand and dodging IEDs. That night I called Staff Sergeant Williams. He'd been my team leader in Afghanistan, and he'd gotten out 6 months before me. Now he was working as a paralegal while he finished his degree. Danny, good to hear from you. How's civilian life treating you? I'm still active duty. Look, I need advice. Legal advice. What's going on? I told him everything. The account? The transfers? The lake house? He listened without interrupting. Making occasional notes? Man, that's rough. But you've got options. Your parents had legal access to the money, but if they lied to you about using it, that could be fraud. And if they used it for their own benefit while you were deployed, that's potentially a civil matter. What do I do?
Document everything.
Get bank records, phone records, any communications about the money, then find a lawyer who specializes in military family law. And Danny, don't confront them yet. Let the lawyer handle it. Copy that. One more thing. You might want to check your credit report. Make sure they didn't open any other accounts in your name. I hadn't thought of that. Will do. Keep your head up, brother. We've got your back. The credit report came back clean, but when I dug deeper into the bank records, I found something else. My parents had taken out a second mortgage on their house 3 months before they bought the lake property. With my savings account listed as collateral, they'd used my money to guarantee a loan for more money to buy a house I'd never seen. I called Mrs. Patterson at the bank. The second mortgage on my parents' house. How is my savings account listed as collateral when it's a separate account? Let me look into that. She was quiet for a few minutes. Danny, I'm looking at the loan documents. But your mother signed an affidavit stating that the funds in your savings account were a gift from you to them, and that you'd authorize them to use the money for real estate investment. I never authorize anything, I know, honey, but we have her signature on the document. Can you fax me a copy? I shouldn't, but yes, I'll send it to you.
Oh.
The document came through 20 minutes later. My mother's signature, clear as day, on a statement that said I'd given them permission to use my combat pay for their retirement planning. I'd specifically requested they invest in real estate because I wasn't planning to attend college. Every word was a lie. I called Williams. Again, they committed fraud. Actual fraud. They forged documents to use my money as collateral for a loan. How much total? $68,000? The savings account plus the second mortgage? Jesus, Danny, this is beyond civil court. This is criminal. You need to call the FBI. The FBI. Bank fraud involving forged documents? Yeah, that's federal. And since you're active duty military, there might be additional charges for targeting a deployed service member. I sat there holding the phone, thinking about Christmas dinner, about Mom crying at the table, about Dad's hands shaking when he tried to explain. I don't want to send my parents to prison, Donnie. They stole from you while you were getting shot at. They used your sacrifice to buy a vacation house. What do you think happens to other soldiers if people think they can get away with this? He was right. It wasn't just about me. It was about every soldier who trusted their family to watch their money while they were overseas. What do I do? The FBI field office in Louisville asked for the white-collar crime division, and Danny, this isn't your fault. Agent Sarah Chen looked like she could be someone's elementary school teacher. Small, quiet, with wire-rimmed glasses, and a gentle voice. But when she reviewed my documents, her expression went cold. Mr. Coleman, I've been investigating financial crimes for 8 years. This is one of the more egregious cases I've seen. We're sitting in a conference room at the FBI field office in Louisville. The walls were beige and everything smelled like industrial carpet and bad coffee. Agent Chen had 2 thick folders on the table between us. The forgery alone is a felony, she continued. But combined with the targeting of a deployed service member, we're looking at multiple federal charges. What happens to them? If convicted, they could face 5 to 10 years in federal prison, plus restitution, fines, and civil penalties. I stared at the table. My parents in orange jumpsuits. Mom in a federal penitentiary. Dad in a cell. Is there any way to handle this without criminal charges? Agent Chen leaned back in her chair. Mr. Coleman, I understand these are your parents, but they didn't just steal from you. They defrauded a federally insured bank. They used forged documents to obtain a loan. And they did all of this while you were serving your country in a combat zone. I know. If we don't prosecute, what message does that send? That military families are acceptable targets? That deployed soldiers can't trust anyone? She was right again. What do you need from me? Full cooperation. We'll need you to provide a detailed statement about your understanding of the account, your communications with your parents, and your expectations for how the money would be used. We'll also need you to testify if this goes to trial, okay? Or something else. We've been monitoring your parents' financial activity since you filed the complaint. Yesterday, they took out a third mortgage on their house, another $15,000. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. They're still doing it. It appears so. They're either planning to flee or they're doubling down on their spending. Either way, we need to move fast. Agent Chen opened one of her folders and pulled out a stack of photographs. These are surveillance photos from the lake house, taken last weekend. I looked at the pictures. My parents' car in the driveway. Mom on the deck, watering plants. Dad setting up a fishing rod by the dock. Both of them smiling, relaxed, enjoying their retirement home, built with my blood money. We'll execute search warrants tomorrow morning, Agent Chen said. Both their primary residence and the lake house. We'll seize all financial records, computers, and any documents related to the fraud. Will they be arrested? Depends on what we find. But Mr. Coleman, you need to prepare yourself. This is going to be public, local news probably. Your parents are going to face federal charges, and everyone in your hometown is going to know why. I thought about Grandpa Charlie, about how he'd looked when he realized what he'd done at Christmas dinner, about the neighbors who'd known my family for decades, about the kids I'd gone to high school with, who'd see my parents on the news. I understand. One more thing. Do not contact your parents. Do not warn them. Not give them any indication that we're investigating. They ask you about the money, tell them you're still thinking about it. Yes, ma'am. I drove back to base. In silence. That night I called my commanding officer, Captain Rodriguez, and requested a meeting. Sir, I need to inform you that my parents are under FBI investigation for bank fraud. It may become public, and I wanted you to be aware. Captain Rodriguez was a good officer. He'd been enlisted before he became an officer, and he understood how the world worked. Are you in any legal trouble, Coleman? No, sir. I'm the victim. Do you need time off? No, sir. I'd prefer to stay busy. Copy that. If you need anything, let me know. Thank you, sir. The raids happened on a Thursday morning at 0630. Agent Chen called me while I was doing PT. We've executed the warrants. Your parents are in custody. Ain't both of them? Yes. We found additional evidence of fraud at the lake house. They'd been using your identity to apply for credit cards. 6 different cards, all with your social security. Number I stopped running. What? They've been living off credit for months. The debt is substantial. Mr. Coleman, this is much worse than we initially thought. I sat down on a bench outside the gym. How much debt? Approximately $90,000. All in your name. My vision went black for a second. $90,000. They'd stolen my savings and then destroyed my credit on top of it. What happens now? I'll be arraigned this afternoon. We'll request they be held without bail. Given the flight risk and ongoing nature of the fraud, you'll need to come in tomorrow to sign additional complaints. Yes, ma'am. The story broke on the evening news. Local couple arrested in military. Fraud case. They didn't use my name, but they showed the house, the lake property, and a perp walk of my parents being led to a police car in handcuffs. Mom looked smaller than I remembered. Dad kept his head down. My phone started ringing. High school friends, neighbors, people I hadn't talked to in years. I turned it off. Grandpa Charlie called the base directly and left a message with my sergeant. Tell Danny I'm sorry. Tell him I didn't know. I called him back that night. Danny, I'm so sorry. I never would have said anything if I'd known. I know, Grandpa. It's not your fault. They used me to. Your mom called me every week telling me how proud you were of the house, how you'd specifically asked them to invest your money in real estate. I believed her. What's going to happen to them? Your lawyer thinks they'll plead guilty? Take a deal. Your mom's been crying for 3 days straight. Your dad, ... He's not talking to anyone. Are you okay? I'm fine. But Danny, I need you to know something. What they did, it's not who they used to be. I don't know what happened to them, but the people who raised you, the people who were proud of you for enlisting, they wouldn't have done this, I know. Do you? Because you turned out right. You turned out honorable. Whatever poison got into them, it didn't get into you. I didn't know what to say to that. I'm proud of you, grandson, for serving your country and for doing the right thing, even when it was hard. Thank you, Grandpa. I love you, Danny. I love you too. The plea hearing was 2 weeks later. Agent Chen called me with the details. They're pleading guilty to all charges. Bank fraud, identity theft, wire fraud, and aggravated identity theft targeting a military service member. Your mother will serve 18 months in federal prison. Your father will serve 24 months. What about restitution? Full restitution? They'll have to liquidate all assets, including the lake house. The court will also order them to pay for credit monitoring and identity restoration services for you. How much will I get back? Probably 60 to 70%. The rest is gone. I did the math. I'd lost 4 years of savings, my credit, and my family. In return, I'd get maybe $40,000 and 2 parents with felony records. Mr. Coleman, I know this isn't the outcome you wanted. It's the outcome they earned. Yes, it is. I didn't attend the sentencing hearing. I was scheduled for a training exercise at Fort Bragg, and I didn't request leave. Agent Chen sent me a text with the final details. Mom got 16 months, Dad got 22 months. Both would serve their time at minimum security facilities. The lake house sold for $62,000. After legal fees and back taxes, I received $43,000. Almost exactly what they'd stolen from my original savings account. I put the money in a new account, a single-name account at a different bank. My parents wrote me letters from prison. I read them but didn't respond. Mom's letters were full of apologies and explanations. Dad's were shorter, more matter-of-fact. Both of them asked me to visit. I never did. I finished my enlistment and got out with an honorable discharge. Used my GI Bill to study engineering at the University of Kentucky. Graduated summa cum laude and got a job with a construction company. That builds military housing. Grandpa Charlie died my junior year. Heart attack, sudden and quick. He left me his house and a note. You're the only one who turned out right. Make me proud. I kept the house and moved in after graduation. Small, quiet, and mine. No joint accounts, no cosigners, no one else's name on the deed. My parents were released from prison while I was in college. They moved to Florida, bought a small trailer with cash, and started over. Dad got a job at a hardware store. At a clinic filing insurance claims, they send me birthday cards every year. I don't send them back. Last month, I got a call from a young soldier at Fort Campbell. His wife had cleaned out their joint account while he was deployed to Iraq. He'd gotten my number from Staff Sergeant Williams, who's now a captain in the JAG course. Sir, I don't know what to do. She was supposed to be saving for a house, but she spent it all on her sister's wedding. How much? $32,000. You have documentation? Yes, sir. Bank records, text messages, everything. I'm going to give you a phone number. Agent Sarah Chen, FBI White Collar Crime Division. Tell her I referred you. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. This is going to be hard, but it's the right thing to do. I understand, sir. After I hung up, I sat on my back porch and watched the sun set over the woods behind my house. The same woods where I'd played as a kid, where I'd learned to shoot, where I dreamed about serving my country. I thought about trust, about family, about the price of doing what's right, even when it costs you everything. I thought about the young soldier who'd called me, and how he'd have to choose between justice and family, the same way I had. I thought about my parents living in a trailer in Florida, probably wondering if I'd ever forgive them. I thought about forgiveness, and whether it was something you earned, or something you gave. I still don't know the answer to that question, but I know this. I sleep well at night. I pay my bills on time. I've never lied to anyone about money, and I never will. Some people might call that cold. Some people might say, I should have given my parents a second chance, but I learned something in Afghanistan that I'll never forget. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. And when someone breaks your trust while you're risking your life for your country, are some things that can't be forgiven, some things that shouldn't be. I'm 42 years old now. I build houses for military families, do good work, honest work, and I sleep well at night. That's enough for me.